Because I was putting this on. This is the third week in a row of wearing the same shirt.
Ooh.
But I'm on like a very, very tight rotation of clothing, and it just so happens to repeat.
Just happens to repeat?
Yep. I mean, when you're my size, you find something that fits, and you just try not to expose yourself to the normals.
We're being Sebastian on the night?
He should be, yeah. I think he's on pretty much from here on out.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Hello. Whoa, Jeremy, you're in the
Hi.
dark. Hey, Josh.
Come towards
How's it
the
going?
light.
It's going.
How do I look?
Camera.
You look fine. Jeremy is like a horror movie.
He's dark.
Well,
Dark,
usually
dark,
am,
dark,
but-
dark.
Unintentional horror movie.
Dark.
Whistling in the dark.
Is it a
Whistling-
camera setting, or do you just
whistling,
not have
yeah.
lights on?
Whistling in the dark.
That's right, like dark, dark, dark. Whistling in
I mean,
the
we
dark.
could just do it like this. That's fine. Oh, there we go.
They might be giants. Fantastic.
Gotta love.
Be nice
I
to the
wasn't so
machines.
old and lazy. I
Alan.
would have seen them 2 weeks ago, but their concert didn't start till 9:30, and well, that's damn close to bedtime. Wait a second, I've seen him be there before.
You look like you had a whole lot of new stuff lately or recently, Sebastian.
He's not talking to
Well, I
us.
see a new monitor there, some accessories, a test bench. It's pretty exciting.
Can you hear me?
We can,
No.
but it doesn't sound like you're coming through your normal mic.
Okay, hold on.
Where are you at?
Did you get Mutter working for you?
I had it, but I
Boom.
deleted it from the iPad. It was one of the ones I tried when I tried a round of IRC clients back in the day, and then I
Mhm.
settled on a different one. And I think the guy died.
Well, that took a turn.
That made I don't know. It's not on the App Store anymore. It's like it ceases to. It's just gone.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like you can't find it. The only reason it's still on that iPad is because it was on there. Like if it was already on the device,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
still get to keep it, right? But you can't reinstall it.
Yeah, they can pry Flappy Bird from my cold dead hands.
One of those.
Yeah, I'm gonna back down. It's
Frozen.
fine. We're good. It's fine.
Frozen.
Okay, now there's me and ugly me. And strangely enough, that's not Josh this time.
What?
I restarted. There we go. Mix. Or it was not working right. There we go. Had this weird thing around Sebastian's video capture.
Hmm.
It was strange.
All right. Was somebody saying something
Hello?
before the screen went dark?
I was just trying to figure out if my microphone was working.
Yeah, I
That's
guess it
better,
is.
but muted.
It sounds really compressed.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Have you tried plugging it in and out again?
No, I have not. Let me.
Isn't this
Do
the
that.
same microphone that I've got? Or
Yeah.
something nicer?
worked
It
fine
surely
the
looks
last
it.
few weeks, but well, who knows?
How do you get the user list?
Is it backwards?
Oh.
Brian
No.
loves doing that. Or love.
And there's users. But I want them to be on the side. I guess that's not a thing. All right.
I-
Puff, puff, pass, puff,
Don't
puff, pass.
understand that.
Don't screw up the rotation.
Don't understand what?
IRC.
Past the Dutchie.
You
on
don't
the
understand
left-hand side?
IRC. Well, Jim, let me tell you about the birds and the bees.
On the left-hand side.
Birds and the bees and the eyes and the seas.
Okay.
Josh and Alan and Sebastian need picks. I mean, you don't
I know. I'm working on it.
You don't have to, but
I
let me
might-
know
I
if you're
might-
not gonna,
I
so I can
can-
take
I
you off
can-
the
I can-
list.
I can
Wait, that's an
probably-
option?
It is an option.
The
New
way this
management.
works is you just go with the show until you get to the bottom, and then
Yeah,
the-
but then I
whatever's
always
there-
screw up the tabs, and then I'm clicking around, and then
Well, that's
everyone gets all pissed
so you
off.
close the tabs as you go,
Oh,
right?
I never thought of that.
You do the yeah, or you do a group at a time as you go, right? And then you're down to almost nothing by the end, and then when you go to the picks, it's easier to do.
I got a terrible haircut today. Really,
I did, or
don't
you did?
remember. I did.
You just got a haircut?
Yeah, it's not good. It's a little too short.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't think
We'll
I was
go
going to
back.
comment on
It
that.
looks nice. Like a good short haircut.
I wouldn't know
what I'm
about
saying.
anything.
Well, I like
like-
it too. It's when it's short, but it's like parts of it are a little too long and parts of it are a little too
Yeah.
short. And
See, that's the thing. I wouldn't know anything about different parts being different lengths because I just set the thing to like number 3 and just go to town.
I don't even have a thing on mine. It's just straight.
You just
Pretty much.
I don't have the bone structure to pull that
Just
off.
zip it.
What are you talking about, Jim? You totally have the bone structure to pull that off.
The bald thing.
I don't
no.
have a choice.
I shaved my head for a fundraiser in college, and it was not a good. It was not a good look.
didn't
Yeah,
end
but
well.
that was in college.
All right, podcast show notes edited
What?
by Ken.
He's being
Oh.
sneaky.
Yeah, we have a special this week.
That's awesome. An actual offer code.
Mm-hmm.
I will use this occasion to actually purchase the print and mug that I have been wanting to purchase for myself.
Yeah, I needed to buy a couple of shirts for my family. So, perfect.
I was waiting because I figured at the end of the year Ryan would all give us a holiday bonus with some sweet merchandise, and of course that didn't work out.
Sweet, sweet merch.
What was I gonna do as a pick? Nope. Maybe. I haven't received it yet.
When has that ever stopped you?
True. Might do it. Other people have reviewed it and put videos up.
Are those past the humming point?
What's humming?
The stage lights.
They're faintly.
All right.
Faintly there.
Sometimes they
They
get ornery.
screech when they're
Yeah, I
partially.
can hear like a pulsing beep.
Now it's gone.
Yeah.
Hey, I still got my hearing. That's good.
Only
At
for
least,
Oh,
at least
that's
whatever
nice.
the frequency that was.
it's like 8 kilohertz.
Your enterprise isn't very well balanced.
Well, it's the Discovery first of all,
Oh, okay.
and yes, it's not.
Damn
It's-
it.
These are ornaments.
Sebastian, you have one of the Hiles, right?
Yeah, but not hooked up yet.
Okay.
Well, that sounds better though, right there.
I was just
Good.
asking because like poor Alex was scrambling to rearrange mics before the.
Well, you just had
That
to move it
wasn't
from over there to
scrambling.
over here. It's fine. You got the other one there, the nasty one, wherever it went.
Nasty one.
What?
There's a nasty one?
Well, the formerly nasty one, the
What?
one that used to be there. Oh, you got it. Okay, but it's got a new cover on it now.
Yeah.
Alex deep throat in the
All right.
Hile.
Ugh.
So is everybody gonna get their picks in or what? Let's go.
This is a shirt.
doing
it's
it.
not a
Dude, I'm
Hive.
working
Fine,
on
fine.
it.
She's slave driver. I like
Damn
the old
it.
guy.
He did pest dress to actually do work. This bullshit.
I love you, Jim.
You know, the bad thing is that all the picks of this week, they're post Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and so
Yeah.
all the prices on everything have gone back up
yeah.
dramatically.
I don't know about that.
Like the $800 monitor I have is now $1,000.
Well, I mean, if you need a monitor and you missed the sale,
Then just wait for another sale.
well, but if you need it now, you got to do what you got to do. It's capital.
Wait for-
Need.
Wait for Black Friday 2019.
That's true.
Yeah.
You could if you can wait that long.
Sebastian, you keep dipping in and out of
What
like
about Boxing Month?
keep dipping in and out of like 8-bit audio over there.
I'm wondering if it is not internet connection related.
It sounds it.
It's sounding like it could be. Yeah.
I mean, your
Blame
video's
it
coming
on
through
Skype.
good.
Yeah, that's right. The
great,
video
though.
looks fine.
Maybe I'll turn off automatic microphone settings in Skype.
That's generally a wise idea.
Okay, that's good.
I mean, it's not gonna make a difference. It's still auto gains.
Yeah, but it still at least makes you feel slightly better.
Yeah. Completely one of those, thermostat in hotel room deals.
Are you saying those aren't real?
Woo.
Some of them aren't.
Yeah, it sounds like auto gain control going out of whack. Comes
don't know
in,
what
comes
it
in
is.
real hot, then backs off real fast.
Maybe I'm
It's like my
overloading
dating life.
on your
She's-
side. Like, am I coming in too hot and then you're gating me? Or
No, you're just really
not
muddy.
gating, but-
You're just like
Man,
super,
coming in flat as a pancake,
yeah,
mate.
super muddy.
Yeah, it's pulling down 6 here, but that's pretty normal for Skype.
What's weird is your video is great. So like
Quite possibly the best we've ever seen.
I wouldn't expect
Good lighting.
Yeah, I wouldn't
nice
expect the
sharpness.
audio to be like doing what it's doing.
Look at that, beautiful.
See,
can
I
just make
worked
out the
on the
stain.
video, and I didn't do anything to audio until it was time to log in, and I just plugged in this mic. So
Yeah.
I'm also using that laptop I took with me, which is the only variable that's different than last week.
Oh, it's the little kitty cat.
I don't want
Just
to
not
alarm
little.
you, but there's a mouse breathing behind you.
It's like, yeah, it's like there's no highs, Sebastian. It's like you're just
Yeah, and I got the EQ out because we did that for the furnace last time.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's coming in real hard compressed from your side.
Yeah, and you're on the threshold of clipping when you get close to it.
Is that mic to have like compression built in or
I don't think so.
I don't know. I feel like it does somewhere in the because it's a USB mic, and I think it does a little bit of compression. But
Have we tried
do we have
pulling
time
them
for
back?
me to just restart the computer real quick and see if that does anything or not?
let's,
Do
just
it.
Yeah, do that real quick.
Because you got a couple
Do
things
it.
to talk about. so.
Do it.
Do it.
Doggy
Do it now.
style.
It's like it just got stuck at super low bitrate audio, but his video is fine. My pick's in there.
I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
Oop, there it
Got
went.
my pick?
I got everyone except Josh.
I'm working on it.
I just to keep
Everybody's
saying.
picking on Josh.
You don't want to have one. That's fine. but-
Everybody always picking on me.
I see Ryan Shroud's clicking around in the dock there.
I guess it's either me or
That's you.
it's
It's that
either
login.
workstation.
That login is still
What am I doing?
no. When,
Oh,
we,
it might be-
when
it might
we're
be
in
over there.
Google on this, it's still logged into Ryan's account.
some of these systems are still under Ryan's account, so we can, mess with all of his personals.
Yes, personals.
Mess with his privates.
Oh, hey now. Okay. Well, all right.
He's not a coworker anymore. Come on.
I know that,
Yeah.
that makes it weird.
No.
It's fine when it's all in the family.
It makes
but
it more natural. Listen, you wanted to run this thing, so now you gotta own it. Just gotta take it. Just take it, Jim.
Take it all.
I better be careful, otherwise he might blast my eardrums with another party popper.
I can't
True.
do that again. I already used that surprise.
Yeah, I know we're still picking up glitter.
Get the
Dude, we're gonna be picking up glitter.
I
for
can look
months.
anywhere I want, and I can see glitter. Sparklies right there.
Yeah.
Sparklies right there.
considering what else is on this carpet, that's the least of our worries.
Oh.
Mm.
This
Oh.
section of carpet was new.
Yeah, but it's
We,
stained.
we
Was.
put it in.
Yeah, I know. 2 years ago.
We
And
glued
then
it
it's
to
been
the-
vacuumed like twice.
Well, that's true. We glued it to the. But in our defense, we only sit here like for an hour a week or
Yeah.
2 hours a week.
Yeah.
So there was just a concrete slab here, which was formerly like the pew for the
Mm-hmm.
church
You mean the altar?
or the alt. Yeah,
Here's
sorry,
the church.
altar.
Here's the steeple. Open the doors and see all the peoples.
Yeah.
By the way,
Oh, that's much better.
Yeah.
by default under Windows 10, this microphone was at 8-bit. Well, 8,000.
Oh,
Hertz.
That would explain.
that's exactly what it
Oh,
sounded like.
So it's
sounds
now
so
at
much better.
48,000, and this is how it sounds.
Oh,
That will be much
great.
better. Yes.
Now you're doing somersaults in my ear. It's fantastic.
Oh boy!
All right, are we
Thank
ready?
you,
then?
Windows 10. It was set to telephone quality. Literally, that was the setting on the list.
Well, we should when we need to fake a telephone interview,
Do that.
like
Yes.
Set it to
live
8.
from Bahrain is Sebastian Peak on the ground.
You know,
Happy
even
fire, folks.
It's like 1950s long distance telephone.
Yeah.
Because calls from Bahrain anymore sound pretty good.
It's all digital VoIP satellites and whatever.
Yeah.
Kids these days, huh? Those on assignment reporters.
Yeah, I know.
All right, is everybody ready then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Everybody.
You're good?
I think so.
Good. Okay. 3, 2. Everyone, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 524, being recorded Wednesday, December 5th, 2018. I'm your host, Jim Tannis.
Ah! Let's try that again with the right ones.
Okay.
Hold on.
What is the sequence this time?
It's the wrong sequence. Is
You
what
tell
it
us the
is.
sequence.
Jim, Jeremy, myself, Sebastian, and then Alan.
Okay.
We're just gonna skip Josh. We'll put it back. on.
And well, you're skipping me already.
We don't need Josh.
Nobody needs me.
Here, they're there. They're everywhere.
All right. Host Jeremy, Josh. There we go.
Okay.
It helps when you have the inputs set up right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right. Okay, take 2. That's all right. Hey, all the greats need at least 2 takes.
I would disagree.
Well, he needed like 8.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Okay, 3, 2. Hey everyone, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 524, being recorded Wednesday, December 5th, 2018. I'm your host, Jim Tannis.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Sebastian Peak.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
Well, thanks for joining us, folks. As you know, we do this every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, not Central, as I always screw up and say.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to join us as we record live, you can join us in our IRC chat at pcper.com/live. And to make sure you never miss a show, join our mailing list. It's our live mailing list at pcper.com/subscribe, where you can put in your name and email, and it's just a plain text email we send out about an hour or so before we have live events like this show or like our special events that we occasionally do when we have guests and stuff. So we don't sell it. We don't use it for marketing. It's just to let you know when we go live. So check that out if you're interested in that. And to support what we do here, we have our ongoing Patreon campaign at patreon.com/PCPer. I did want to point out, too, I forgot to do this last week, and then I was gone the week before that, but I wanted to say thank you. One of our viewers, and I only know him or her by their YouTube handle, and I can't pronounce it, so I apologize. You know who you are. Did this graphic for us a few weeks ago after we found out Ryan was leaving us. So thank you so much for that. I made a little modification, of course, but really appreciate that. So thank you so much for that. This is fantastic. I know everyone has really enjoyed the Back to the Future like fading away of our founder and
Our inspiration.
but if you join us here, it helps us do what we do. It's a monthly fee or monthly pledge, I guess. And so we appreciate that. And we've brought back the tradition where if you are a new member, if you become a new member during the live taping or you increase your pledge, edit your name before you do that, and I'll get an email with that notification, and I will read anything you put in that name field. Ryan had the criteria of anything within reason. I don't have shame, so my limit is just something that I won't read anything that'll get me arrested for saying out loud or streaming to the internet. But beyond that, hit me with your best shot. I think we offered that last week and nobody took me up on it, at least during the show. So I've got the phone here. I should be getting the notifications. So if you want to embarrass me, I'm all for it.
Just come on, we need a bit of help up here.
Yes.
Can't be the only ones embarrassing him.
I mean, I do a great job myself, but you can really pile on. It's the holidays. So also speaking of the holidays, we've got our merchandise storage at joshtech.com. That's JOSHTEKK.com, where you can pick up some merchandise, our logo, the Josh Tech, the Josh Walrus logo. And for the first time, at least I think this is the first time.
It is.
Ken has arranged a very special treat. If you use promo code, what is it?
Hold on. The reason that this is happening was when Josh finally posts his wheel review.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
We were going to discount JoshTech.com.
That's right. As you know, we love Josh. We have him here. He takes time out of his busy schedule to come and visit us every Wednesday night, but he hasn't written in a while. He's got a couple reviews sitting there, and he finally got it done.
He's a busy guy. It's
so
okay.
Ken got this done, fulfilled the promise, and it's just in time for the holidays. And it's, what's the code now?
JoshTech15.
JoshTech15. 2 Ks in JoshTech. Use promo code JoshTech15. You save 15% at our store, so you can save a little money while getting something awesome for you or a loved one. I mean, I don't know why you'd buy it for a loved one, but worth a shot, I guess.
Buy it for somebody you hate.
That's true too. We can get a little Festivus or whatever.
Yeah.
The airing of grievances.
Yes, the airing of grievances. And here's your Josh Walrus mug. But speaking of Josh, we're continuing to talk about our beloved Josh. We'll jump into the week in review. We've got that aforementioned review that Josh has for us. It's the Logitech G29 wheel. Tell us about this, Josh.
Okay. Logitech. They've been around for a while, like since 70s or 80s or something like that. They made mice, and they still make mice. Then they expanded into keyboards. They expanded everything damn well under the sun. Speakers, headphones, you name it. Well, they got into, gaming gear. Joysticks, whatnot. And I think 2005, they decided to start looking into racing wheels. I mean, racing wheels have been, a decent business for guys like Thrustmaster and Fanatec or Fanatic. And they wanted to get out on the action. So they had, I think their first one was like one of the Momo wheels. It was like released in 2005, and then the G25, then the G27, and in 2015 they released the G29 and the G920. They're essentially identical wheels, except one's for the PS4 and PS3, and the other's for the Xbox series. The Xbox had fewer controls, fewer buttons, a little bit more simple. It doesn't have the real rev light, but the G29 has a lot of those extras, and they're about at the same price. And the best thing about both these wheels is they go on the PC. And so I decided to take a look at this and, kind of get in there before the holiday season and talk about it some. Originally, it was released at $399. And I think Ryan, back in the day, he did a video review of the G29 or the 920. I can't remember which one. And it was, it was an overall positive experience, except the thing that was just really nagging a lot of users about was that price point.
Yep.
So you got the wheel, you got the pedals, but unlike the G27, you didn't get the shifter. And so people thought, well, it's a little strange that something is, very nearly the same, and it costs more, and it comes with less. And so it kind of got hammered a little bit about, some review people. Do you like that car front end?
Oh, is that
nice.
what that's supposed to? Oh, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I think it's kind of modeled off, an angular Bentley type Mustang GT.
Yeah,
in fact, it reminds me most of a 2012 Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
I like the egg
The way
crate detail. That's nice.
Yeah, it's fairly close. But anyway, the price was kind of stinky, and it was a sticking point for a lot of people. And so then, over the past couple of years, that price has slowly gone down. And in fact, in Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it finally saw $199. Now, its average is around $230 to $260. And when we look at it, the value of the product really improves pretty dramatically. The overall feel strength and kind of feedback quality is around that of the Thrustmaster T150 or the TMX. It's going to be a little bit lower than what you would get with like a T300S or the Thrustmaster TX series, which usually are around $290 to $350 depending on sales. And the feeling is not as good in the actual wheel itself. However, it makes up for it in other areas. The materials are fantastic on this. Stainless steel shifters, real leather wrap around the wheel, which is something you don't get until you're looking in the $500 range for a wheel that'll have leather from either Fanatic or Thrustmaster. It's a brushed aluminum spokes in there. Everything else is a little plasticky, but it's got an interesting clamping mechanism that can clamp it down pretty good. Not as good as some of the other clamps, but for the amount of force that the two motors exert on that, the clamp is perfectly fine. Another positive is the pedal system. Most pedal systems in the $200 to $300 range, they'll only give you a brake and an accelerator, and it'll be a narrower pedestal to work on. With Logitech, you get clutch, brake, and accelerator. There's plenty of metal, as you can see, in the pedals and the swing arms and the springs under there. The accelerator feels pretty good. The brake actually has a nice progressive feel, not as much as some of the higher end Fanatic products, but it is really good considering it's a $230 to $260 product. And again, you get a clutch. And if you want to spend the extra $50 and get the shifter, then you have, kind of a full working set that you can race pretty much anything with. Compatibility is very good with the Logitech products. A lot of the games designers work very well with Logitech just because they've got, not only mice and keyboard, but also game controllers, pads, joysticks, and the wheels. And so there's a very good overall support for this. Again, overall feel is like that of the lower end Thrustmaster TMX T150s, but again, you've got the better materials. You've got pretty good quality. Logitech makes pretty good stuff, and you've got other features in there that more than make up for the twin design. Now, in the actual workings itself, it's got two helical gears coming off of two motors, and I would guess it's about 3 to 4 Newton meters of force. It's not as much as some of the Thrustmaster products. I think the T300 is 6. The Fanatic CSL Elite are 7 to 8. The TSPC is about 8 Newton meters of force. And so it's not as, it doesn't kick you as much. It's not as strong, but it does have a pretty good feel to it. And, for $230 if you get it, and if you can find it on sale for $199, it's a steal because you get a lot of wheel for that kind of price. And so I've enjoyed my time with it. I think it works well. The drivers are very, very solid. It integrates with the other, what is it called? The G Suite.
Yeah, the Logitech
gaming software. So you can control everything from one application that, is into your, if you got a Logitech mouse and keyboard, you've got 3 different tabs that you can go to along with this that you can control all of them. Some of the settings are not as granular as one would hope in the software, but most applications will give you some control over, force feedback, strength, and some other things that you can kind of, adjust in games. So it's a good product, and at this price, I gave it the Silver Award. Because, again, it gives you a lot of product for not a whole lot of money. At $399, it was just simply too expensive for what you got.
Yeah.
At this $230 price, it's a really compelling product. And it has great materials. It's got good feel. Leather wrap steering wheel is fantastic. You can't complain. So, good product, good price. Logitech has done well finally getting it down to this price point. And, if you're a beginner driver or, an enthusiast on a budget, this is an excellent wheel to get because it offers you a lot of stuff for the price. So, JoshTech 15, get that money out.
Not on this product. Let's clarify, the JoshTech promo code is only for our Teespring merchandise. Josh, you mentioned the Thrustmaster that you said this compares to. Do you know what price that comes in? Like, what's the price comparison between this
the
and
C150 and TMX are in between $150 and $200. It depends on what time of year it is, but that's kind of where they're aimed at. And when you get one of those, the wheels are typically kind of rubbery polyurethane feel. Mm-hmm. And I mean they do fine, but after a couple hours of actual racing, your hands feel pretty clammy. It kind of pills around a little bit, and it's not great.
Sure.
So the leather is a huge upgrade with that, but it's solid part.
Yeah, great. All right. Well,
and for some reason, my dogs are barking outside, and my family is refusing to let them in. Do they not know how important I am?
Have they ever?
That was a rhetorical question.
Uh-huh. Yeah. All right. Well, Josh deals with that problem. That's the Logitech G29 racing wheel, something that's been around for a while, but is now at a much more compelling price point. All right. So if you're going to be playing some racing games on your PC, you're going to need a new graphics card. Probably not this one, though. NVIDIA this week kind of had what would you call this, Alan? A coordinated teaser?
I guess.
A bunch of YouTube influencers, there was at least one guy who's like a data scientist who does some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
They all simultaneously accidentally exposed the RTX Titan, NVIDIA's latest Titan card based on the RTX Turing architecture.
Just nonchalantly had it sitting somewhere.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a $2,500 video card. I wonder where that came from.
Exactly. A nice box, though. Nice looking box.
Sure.
And the card, from what we can see, the card has the pictures here that NVIDIA has provided now. It's a similar to the Founders Edition,
it looks like the same
series, but gold instead of silver.
Yep.
So nice look. They're kind of taking that Tesla V design that they had, not Tesla V, Titan V from last year. And as Jeremy said, it's $2,500. But comparing it at its performance, at least anything but double precision, or if you don't need ECC memory, you compare that to the Quadro or the Tesla, and that's a lot of performance at that price. Even if it's insane, looking at it from like a gamer's consumer's perspective.
Right. Yeah. If you have a need for that specific type of compute, like that looks like the best game in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of puts the final nail in the coffin. It's been riding this way for a few years that from NVIDIA's perspective, they don't want Titan to be the gamer card anymore.
Right.
Because, Titan launched and it was like the more money than sense gamers product line. If you're a gamer, you want the ultimate card. It's the Titan. The first few generations were called GTX Titan.
Right.
But they came out at $1,000, and you can't even get a high-end gaming card for that anymore.
Well, sure, that's right.
True.
The whole market has changed since then. True, that's true. But
Jim, didn't you have a couple of those cards?
I did. I bought them for my wife's. She's an architect, and she was building a box for rendering. And at the time, it was the first gen Pascal Titans, not the ones that we nicknamed Titan XP, not the ones NVIDIA officially called Titan XP. And I picked up 2 of them, and they were great cards. And then she left that job like 2 months later. And
you got to keep the cards.
And so now they're in my personal rig. So that worked out, I guess. But still, stupid expensive for the performance they offer. But I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing, deep neural computing and AI training and any of the tensor stuff that I would need this kind of performance for. I guess another factor we should mention too is that this card takes the memory to 24 gigabytes, so it's double, I guess. What
I think so.
What was Titan V?
Yeah, 12.
Yeah, it was
12.
12.
Yeah. So you get the additional memory. It's GDDR6 non-ECC, so that's the one limitation there. I mean, not that the Titan brands have touted ECC, but if you're comparing this to some of those higher end workstation and compute cards, that's a factor. But that's a heck of a lot of performance for those specific workloads. Don't buy this card for gaming.
Buy two of them and use NVLink.
Yeah, sure. I mean, do what you want, but man, that's crazy. We thought NVIDIA pricing was already high for gaming, but we did not get sampled one, for this teaser, so we don't have one yet. It's going to be coming out later this month. We'll hopefully get one as soon as we can to give it some tests. But there's the official details are out at NVIDIA's website, and those who want to spend that much and who have a need for that kind of performance can check it out. Anybody else have any other thoughts on this product? No.
You?
Okay.
Do I have to?
Yeah. Well, now you do.
Double the memory, lots of speed. I mean, it's pricey.
Yeah, and it will.
What else do you expect NVIDIA to do? I mean, they've got a stranglehold on the high end.
Yes.
So they're going to monetize the living crap out of every decent die that comes off the line.
Yeah. Well, that plus they, like every GPU related company, is facing backlash from investors who didn't understand that mining was not a permanent thing.
Yeah.
So they're looking for.
Wasn't the Titan V like 3K?
Yes, it was. It was even more expensive than this.
Yeah.
So it's odd that this is higher performance by a decent amount than a Titan V, lower cost, but at the same time, you flip it around and you look at the gamer cards, and holy crap, they're going the opposite.
Yeah, they're converging.
Oh, for the professional ones, they cut like the lower end off significantly, so they're much cheaper than they were. So they've also got to sort of look at that, balancing the Titan versus one of the RTX Quadros, which are come in less than this for the lower tier one. I think it's $1,700-$1,800
Yeah.
for the entry level one.
So it's just
It's a
a
weird
matter of
place, but there you go.
yeah, make sure your workload is gonna or be able to take advantage of this.
Yeah, don't buy it for gaming.
Yep.
Just no.
What about on 1080p?
Especially, if you're going to be gaming at 1080p, yeah, you can justify it. But all right, let's jump into some news. Ken is not here because Ken is in Hawaii.
That lucky bastard.
Along with apparently,
He's hanging out with Jack Lord.
Yeah. So
the only place in the States with 5G.
Well, yes, apparently they've got it set up for the demos and the testing. But yeah, so it's a Snapdragon event down there. Qualcomm's, I guess, sort of becoming annual excursion to Hawaii, because they did this last 2 years, or was it just last year? This is not their first year for sure. They were down there again last year, but
yeah, they were at least there last year.
But they're out there showing off the Snapdragon 855. And so Ken just got this in. He wasn't able, we were going to try to have him join us, but he had to go to a meeting. So he got his article in now, and he'll be back to give us more details next week. But we can jump into what he's provided for us based on what they showed him down there. And it looks like it's a pretty compelling upgrade for Snapdragon. They're moving away from Big Little, which we knew. And they detailed more this new Prime Core setup, which is going to take, it's very similar to Big Little. You've got your big cores, your little cores. But with Prime Core, you've got a Prime Core. It's pretty good with the names, huh? Pretty descriptive naming scheme. And so that Prime Core, and if you're watching the video version of this, we've got a graphic that they shared, that Qualcomm shared. You've got one core designated as your Prime that can turbo higher, much higher,
even higher,
than what the individual cores could do under the old architecture or old setup. And so that
the old regime,
and this is just to probably be the best possible at single-threaded performance,
because they have to catch up. Apple is by a clear margin leading this class of products or chips. And so this continues to give them that power efficiency when they need it, but when the phone or the device needs that power, they have something that can boost higher. Better graphics, they say up to 20% faster graphics. And one of the areas where they're looking to really stick it to Apple, because they're not going to beat Apple overall, even with these improvements, but they're going after sustained performance, because Apple and all SoCs, mobile SoCs, have a problem with sustained performance. You hit that processor, you start heating things up, it goes fast for a little while, and then it slows down.
Yep.
Which, that's how processors work, and heat dissipation and thermal throttling. Well, they're advertising that with the Prime Core and with some efficiency changes, they can last longer. Okay, I shouldn't have.
Yeah. So the idea is just do it more efficiently.
Wait for Josh to say something. But
I'm still giggling on the 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indians thing.
But and again, these are the marketing charts that Qualcomm provides everyone and at the big event, and we'll have to see how this shapes out. But they're looking at, their unnamed competitors and sustained gaming performance, and the 845 from last year versus the new 855, and it's a big difference. They can sustain a higher workload, so that even though it may be slower out of the gate, when your iPhone or your whatever slows down over time, the 855 is going to be maintaining that higher baseline. So there's something to look for there.
I think the CPUs themselves, they're custom. Well, mostly custom. I think that they're still based on the Cortex A76, I believe. But they've done more things with kind of the front end to make them a little bit more efficient and better overall throughput. Because if you compare this with the Samsung Exynos products, which are extremely bursty, I mean, they're really super wide execution in Samsung, but once you actually start hammering on them consistently, so many of those transistors are kind of firing off at once that TTP envelope, gets to the point where they start throttling down significantly. And so even though they say, hey, we can burst up to 2.7 gigahertz, next thing you know, you're running 1.9, 1.8 gigahertz, and something like the 855 is going to continue to do, 2.8 with one core, I think 2.4 with the rest. And so you're going to see some evening out there that in actual overall throughput as we expand with games. That's kind of one of the bigger ones that these CPUs are doing, that they experience this kind of consistent long-term performance that needs to happen. You're going to get better overall performance with an 855. And again, it's going to be a 7-nanometer part. It's one of the first that will be out there. I'm expecting this probably in mid 2019. But anyway, that's my little bit. Go ahead and keep running, Jim.
Well, thank you. Always appreciate your bits. The other thing that's exciting that at least appears exciting based on the marketing materials is that they've really paid a lot of attention to their imaging processor and using depth sensing AIs and all that. They're able to take the fake the portrait effect that Apple popularized, and then a lot of other phone makers have also implemented, and they're able to apply it to video, and not just video, but up to 4K HDR 60 frames per second video.
Yeah,
that's incredible if it works.
Which as far as the sensors would have to work, and that would typically mean that it's probably capturing at 120, right? Because you need a couple of frames, or like a partially exposed frame, and then you expose it a little bit more, and then recapture the data again. So you're basically getting 2 frames for every frame, right? Because you have to get HDR. So you can't the sensors aren't good enough by themselves to just have this amazing dynamic range. You have to double expose usually.
Yeah.
And as intensive as that sounds, with this new ISP, apparently all of that work is being offloaded to the ISP, this new Spectra 380 ISP.
Yeah, you can't CPU handle this. It has to be, within dedicated hardware that's able to, handle that fast of a stream doing that.
Yeah, this is the Bokeh effect, isn't it? Where it'll make the background artificially.
Yeah. It simulates
it's artificial though. It's not.
A wider aperture on a subject.
Right.
Now, I mean, they're probably not doing the whole try to pick out the profile of the person. They're probably just doing it more on, well, we can tell that this is partially blurred, so we'll just make it more blurred.
Well, I mean, they talk about
Right.
that they're looking for real-time object segmentation, so that they're trying to at least like in marketing
Yeah.
materials, but they claim that they're trying to do some processing there.
It's going to have to be really good because, like, if you just take a portrait even with the iPhone, where you can tell it kind of like missed something in the hair or
Mhm.
something like that, right? But if you had something that kind of an effect jittering around in video,
yeah,
it would be so much more apparent.
It's
right?
it's definitely it's going to accentuate the issue, like the misses, so to speak.
Well,
Yeah, the
and-
misses would be super obvious in that case.
And when
I
you're-
would not be surprised if the video feature was multi-camera dependent. That would make a lot more sense
Could
to
be,
me
yeah.
to actually have one of the cameras focus on the subject and have the other one provide information for the background blurring.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the other thing is on a physical blur like that, it's not the whole subject; it's a plane.
Yeah.
And like I've seen the portrait view on these things, and you could tell it immediately because the focus plane is just kind of it's too deep for how much background blur there is.
Yeah.
And I think for most people they don't care, but when you see it, knowing what it looks like off a physical camera lens, it kind of looks wrong, just right off the crank. But I'm probably just being picky about things.
I mean, I think when Apple first introduced it, what was it, the iPhone 6S? It was a couple years ago.
Mm.
You could tell it was clearly like there were impressive shots that you would get occasionally, but you could tell that it was artificial. And then thus far with the 10S series, it's pretty good. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like usually you see like the eyes are sharp, but the front of the nose is a lot of focus
Yeah.
with a real camera.
It's too good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you just got to get yourself a giant telephoto lens and stand 100
Really
yards
far
back.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get some Hasselblads with an F1.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. They're only $60,000.
That's all.
Other tidbits about this new chip. This is an option that the chip is implementing, so it's going to be up to how the manufacturers implement this into their software. But it's going to support native support for the high efficiency image formats. So that's good. Apple's been doing that. Do any other current phones on the market have support for that right now?
I want to say the high efficiency format for images is an Apple thing right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or
But
people
it's-
who wanted like JPEG compatibility actually have to go into settings manually and disable it because it's enabled out of the box.
Yeah. Well, here's a tip for you. If you got an iPhone and you want to shoot in HEIC, but you upload your photos to Dropbox, it will automatically convert to
It
JPEG when it
converts them.
uploads.
Yeah.
So handy. But yeah, I mean, this stuff's based on
same for OneDrive as well, I think.
probably, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
But this stuff, if you're unfamiliar with it, is based on HEVC encoding techniques, so you get better compression for video and photos. So that's coming. And again, though, that's going to be up to the manufacturers who implement these chips on how they work that into their software. And then touching on a story that Ken published yesterday, this will be a platform that supports 5G natively, the multiple variants of 5G. 5G, of course, is still a
don't think it's
nebulous thing in the sense that, like, they've been saying for 6 months that it's coming in 6 months.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be the kind of a thing like 4G was, though. Like, in other words, I don't think it's just going to be, even eventually, I don't think it's going to be this ubiquitous everything is 5G thing. I think it's really just going to be, because of the range being so short, I think it's going to just be meant more for high density city type, places where it's more applicable to do that. Like, I probably wouldn't expect to see 5G along a highway out in the middle of nowhere, right?
You mean in Wyoming?
Whereas you might
Like
actually
99%.
Yes. Josh in Wyoming is probably never going to get 5G.
Never.
He'll probably get that before he gets fiber.
No, but like 4G has still a decent amount of range to it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of practical to see that like in more rural areas where they can still stick with the same tower locations that were there for 3G and get away with 4G, where your signal strength is high enough, as an example. Right.
There's actually a picture in that article talking about where things are going to be laid out.
Yeah,
for
like
that.
like how they intend to,
I think it's the other article actually.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't know if you have on the.
I
was
don't
it the
think I have
second?
it
It was
queued
the
up.
second one. You
Let's
didn't have it
see.
open.
Yep. Womp
But of
womp.
course, all of them, the major ones, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mo, and Verizon, are planning on rolling it out because think of the data overage charges. Just think how quickly you can crank over.
There we go.
Scroll down one more. There you go.
Oh, well, that's
rolling out to.
That's rolling out.
I think we were.
This other thing is just, like you go further out, they're talking about LTE, further out from the city.
It'll be a cascading coverage area,
right?
Where you're fastest in the center and you still have acceptable speeds at
gigabit LTE. That still is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it does kind of make sense to to put 5G in just the denser area, because not just with the shorter range, but because it's able to handle way more connections, way more simultaneous. The time slicing is more efficient. It's able to do, well, I think Ken got flown out to some stadium one time where they were testing 5G, like sharing the same channels as 4G, that all the people, because obviously they didn't have a stadium full of phones that were on 5G, but it was sharing the airspace, basically. Like
sharing. It would have been Australia or England.
I don't know, but it was like, they were doing speed tests on 5G phones, and they were getting gigabit speeds in a stadium while a game was going on.
Yeah,
where all those poor saps on 4G and whatever, they have signal, but you're not getting anything because you're trying to share it with too many people. Same kind of thing like at CES. CES is a great example of, it's gotten better in prior years because they've rolled out microcells and stuff like that where, but it's still using 4G technology. You'd still hit spots where even though you're looking at the truck that is this big repeater with a huge fat pipe to the internet, you have your phone out, you have max signal, you're connected to that truck most likely, and it's just sharing with tens of thousands of people all running around the convention center, so you just don't get anything, right? I
got to go back in time. When I got my Galaxy S3, and it was one of the first, kind of 4G phones that I remember going to CES, and 4G was working, and it was working great. And all these people with their iPhones that was still limited to 3G were really, really angry because nothing worked for them. And I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed, and it was better than cats.
Yep. Well, iPhone users should have been used to it because they started on Edge.
True.
I mean, my God. But who was it?
Competing with the BlackBerries.
Yeah.
Who was it Zuckerberg? Some internet lunatic was going to blanket the world with automated blimps that would just hover and then be repeaters for various networks.
Now it's carbon fiber drones instead, or with wings, not like the kind with 4 props, but with big
very
wingspan,
long wings,
solar powered, flying. Still hasn't happened, but
wasn't there a scene in a movie with Avengers or Captain America where they were going to use those to kill us all?
Probably.
Okay.
Are you thinking of slaughter bots?
I don't know.
The Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah.
Had the big hovercraft with all the guns on it and could, target thousands of people at once. Yeah.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah. Good image recognition, though. So the other nice thing about this is that, in theory, anyways, because we haven't really seen it in practice, we're going to be dipping down into areas of the spectrum which don't have quite as much traffic and interference as we're dealing with right now. Because that's becoming a huge problem for any wireless signal. It's just the airwaves are so bloody crowded, it's interfering with itself. And now we're getting to the sub 6 gigahertz part. We sold that off 2-3 years ago, I think, the FCC. So it's going to be interesting to see if that actually helps as well. So that it's not just signal strength and speed, it's reliability. And as you say, when you're stuck in the middle of a big crowd of people, you don't start to see these dropouts and just, I know I'm connected, but is that a modem I hear whining?
Hey, there are times when I would take 28.8 over what I could get, which was nothing. So as we said, 2019 is the claimed rollout for this, both the chipsets, the handsets, and the networks. But we'll see. I mean, 4G took a while to get going, so. But check out the article that Ken put up for all the information. They also showed up some stuff like they've got this 3D sonic sensor, which allows you to have the in-glass fingerprint reader, which is there are some phones that do it now, but it's all optical, I guess. And this is using some sonic method that improves speed and accuracy. So that would be cool because I really, as an iPhone user, not that Apple would necessarily adopt this technology, but I still miss Touch ID with Face ID.
I'm still on an
Because
iPhone
like
8.
even here, where I want to see if anybody has sent anything embarrassing for me to say,
Yeah.
which they haven't. Come on.
Come on,
Much
couple
disappoint.
bucks. Listen to him say something.
Even for $1, man, I'll say something
lunatic.
just crazy. But
Ludicrous.
Crazy.
But I have to look at it, I have to hold it up to my head and, get in the way of the show. I can't just like rest my finger on it and open it up. So, So seeing improvement in on-display fingerprint sensors is.
But can you do it in the Harry Carey voice? That's crazy.
I could try.
Hi.
Yes.
All right.
Well, is that Milton Berle? What is happening?
Harry Carey.
He's channeling the wrong.
Hey!
So, as I said, Ken is still there. The summit is still ongoing. There's more announcements, I'm sure, to come, and he'll be back. We'll check PC Per the rest of this week. He'll post what he finds, and then he'll be back next week to tell us all the details that we got wrong or missed, I'm sure.
Ken just wallowing in 5G right now as we speak.
Yeah. I'm sure.
I'll come back with some form of radiation poisoning, I'm sure.
That was a good test to see if this stuff is going to give you cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's been, as you said, he's been testing this stuff. Ryan's been sending him to places to test networking stuff for years, so he's going to have the high dose exposure we need.
Here, Ken, sit between these two experimental routers and do some speed tests.
I have a headache. Oh, you're fine. It's fine.
Ooh. I got the segue here.
Uh-oh.
Speaking of cancer.
What? Oh.
I'll get it.
Never mind. Here, you can do it.
Okay.
I thought it was funny.
Let's go to the next story.
It's the next story.
That's my segue. So Jeremy's got a news post for us about some developments at Intel involving magneto-electric spin orbit design, or MESO.
It sounds
Mesa like vaporware.
So horny.
Yep.
Well, yes. Tell us about this, Jeremy.
Oh, it hits all of the nice little wonderful buzzwords like quantum and ferromagnetic and multiferroic materials. If it's to be believed, and it's not that this technology does not exist, just not in any sort of feasible manner, Intel is suggesting they've been working for the last 5 years on a replacement for general CMOS-based production of chips, which we've been using for forever, which uses 5 times less power and, 5 times less voltage and roughly 10 to 30 times less power. It's also going to be about 5 times more dense when it comes to doing operations, which sounds, room temperature quantum materials are involved as well. So literally they hit every single buzzword you could possibly hope for and have produced absolutely nothing. Don't get me wrong, it would be wonderful if this was true, because this would be wonderful. All of a sudden we're getting a lot more a lot more dense processing power at a tiny percentage of the heat and power being consumed or produced. But I don't think we're going to see it come out before everyone's moved on from 10 nanometer.
Yeah. I think everything is theoretical / experimental.
Yeah.
Originally
this was done back in 2001. Like, someone did do it for a thing.
Yep.
A thing, and nothing has been produced since, apart from a whole bunch of PhD papers. There is a link to the Nature article if you want to delve into it a bit more, and Nature hasn't completely destroyed their reputation yet. They're working on it. It's interesting, and I could see in the late 2020s, 2030s that this might be a thing, but I don't think it's going to be wide scale for quite a long time. You might see some memory technology.
It's the problem with materials is that, a lot of stuff has been done in the past and it takes a while work out all the kinks and to really kind of figure out the physics of these materials and what makes sense in terms of lithography and how you mix those materials. I mean, we can look at Intel and their best intentions at 10 nanometer and how that worked out at them. I mean, everything looked good on paper. It should have worked. And it didn't. And like any good scientist, they learned from that. And I think that we're going to see some, positive things in the future, but it's not going to be for a little while until they kind of get their ducks in a row. But that is the thing about, this kind of work is you may not get everything you want in some of these tests, but somebody could very well pick up some of these findings and like say, hey, I can actually apply some of this here in this kind of circumstance, and next thing you know, we've got another silicon ion insulator. We got another gallium arsenide. We've got SGE, SGI stuff. I can't remember all the stinking acronyms, but it's step by step. And the more you learn about these materials and how they work in certain circumstances, the better off you're going to be in the future when you can integrate this knowledge into something better. So this is science that is certainly not wasted.
Yeah, and bismuth iron oxide, not as esoteric as some of the things we've been seeing come out, which is at least kind of nice.
Yeah.
In the paper, they're talking about circuits operating at 0.1 volts.
Yeah.
Like actually,
slow.
Tested like with results and stuff like that.
Well, it doesn't take much to kick around 8 atoms.
Yes, also true. And hopefully...
the problem being, it doesn't take much to kick around 8 atoms.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you might end up with 7 atoms or 6.
Yeah, it's like,
oops, I kicked it a little too hard. Dang it.
So on this, what happens when you get a cosmic ray come in and blast half the thing away?
Yeah. I mean, that's...
Well, you remember the flip your bit thing? No, this will be more flip your lid because you just lost the whole damn thing.
Well, you just got to scale it to have like redundant nodes that are duplicating their workloads. And
yeah, you'll need parity for like CPU calculations.
Because that's not
because it's too small.
Yeah, that's not an uncommon thought. Yeah, now that we're dealing with this stuff.
That is eventually going to have to be a reality, regardless of what any of these technologies do. Eventually, something like cosmic rays, which I know sounds like a joke, but that's a thing. That's a thing that's already tested for now. Like Intel has an accelerator that they hit their SSD controllers with when they're testing firmware. Make sure the drive recognizes that a bit flipped, and it if it's an enterprise SSD, it'll like throw errors and stuff like on purpose, right? So that's already kind of a thing, but you kind of need a relatively high energy, impact to cause it now. But when you start going to levels like this, then
So that's why the Large Hadron Collider is shut down right now. Intel was throwing things in it.
Intel confiscated.
I think they use a smaller one.
I hope so
for their stuff.
Well, we have a development here. My shameless begging and pleading has paid off. Unfortunately, though,
you got to start somewhere.
This very kind gentleman only gave his name, and it is Chris Dubiel or Dubiel. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, but he just became a new new patron. Thank you, sir. And if you do want me to say something embarrassing, just send me a tweet and I'll say it next time. I owe you an embarrassing comment.
Now you're going to get so many tweets.
Well, only from Chris here.
Oh.
Yeah. Limited to Chris. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right, well, let's jump into the next story here, which is a little interesting project that Jeremy found for us via Hackaday, and it's a mineral oil cooled or submerged a Raspberry Pi.
As opposed to a Ken Edison,
As opposed to as I've learned.
Did an intern do this?
We had to educate Jim earlier.
Yeah, because I wasn't here. I've only been here for 2 years, a little less than 2 years. So I missed this, but I was told there was quite a spectacle a few years ago.
I don't think anything actually ever happened.
No, it's just
hey, where there's smoke,
no one
fire.
believes you anymore.
It just turned into this crazy 5-headed monster over
Why would
time.
we still be talking about it so many years later if it wasn't true?
Exactly.
I know, right? But and yet still, every time I look for evidence, I can't find any.
Well, he still wakes up screaming.
I know. I know
When
he
he takes
does.
naps at the office.
Numerous
Ken's
reasons for
eyes.
that.
Yeah.
The evidence is there.
Also, do Raspberry Pis even run hot enough to need this?
Okay. Interesting that you bring this up because, of course, with the PlayStation Classic launching, and people have been, like I know LGR did a video, but a lot of people have done a video about using a Raspberry Pi 3 or some similar hardware to just do it yourself and how much better it is, et cetera, as far as emulation goes. But one of the things that was brought up is that if you're using a Pi 3, for example, to emulate a PlayStation, it gets really hot to the point where you start to error out or have significant performance penalties. So you have to either use heat sinks. You can buy little heat sink kits. Air cooling is probably even better, but this would be kind of ideal for that if you're doing any kind of significant 3D like game emulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but at that point, though, wouldn't, the hassle of having a big vat of mineral oil on your desk, and wouldn't it just make more sense to buy a more performant-based hardware
This
platform?
isn't about sense.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Mineral oil cooling usually never is.
But they do note that because this is not the first mineral oil cooled Raspberry Pi.
No.
But what they did here is they were able to submerge the entire thing instead of using like heat sinks and stuff, or not heat sinks, but like water cooling.
Like water blocks. Yeah.
Water blocks. That's what I was looking for. Because they soldered on extensions to all of the I/O and anything else that would have been not ideal to submerge.
Yep.
And so they've got the USB and the video and all that running out of the case, so they can still keep the rest of the board under.
So, looking at the picture here, there's what looks like an inner chamber and an outer chamber.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. There is a video.
Yeah, and there's two fans on it, so
I think the fans are just pushing oil.
that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Well,
I don't know.
seeing if I can find the timestamp that it'd show it.
Oh, why there's two. Probably around there. You can see.
Okay.
Okay, so there's one. Is the second one just a catch in case it leaks, maybe?
Possibly.
No, it's flowing through the fans there. You can see it.
Yeah.
So it's just circulation.
Oh, okay.
So the idea being that you can actually remove some of the hotter oil.
Just two chambers.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting. Well, something to check out.
I personally would have just put a small heatsink on the Raspberry Pi. Since I
you wouldn't have got a news story then.
I know. But I think what's the max draw on those things? Like 5 watts? Something like that.
The threes are getting up there. I mean, like,
okay, 10 watts. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure you can shove more through it.
Probably. We're going to overclock and, next they'll be like LN2 cooling. I'm sure it's probably already a thing.
I think that's already been done.
Oh, dear.
Well, here's something a little more performant than a Raspberry Pi, although much more expensive.
The answer you found is Chris Brown, huh? What was the question?
Thank you, Siri. She thought I said little more performance, and she said that the answer to that question was
It's Chris Brown.
Controversial R&B star Chris Brown. All right.
A little more performance.
Thank you, Siri.
Okay then.
Have we mentioned that Apple needs to work on its digital assistant
It
technology?
really does. So, back to this Chromebook.
So it's the Pixel Slate, which just launched recently. It's getting some really good reviews. They say it's a gorgeous screen. It's like a 3000 by 2000 resolution. So that nice 3:2 ratio. It's got a Core i5. Doesn't have Thunderbolt, and does not have a headphone jack.
Mm-hmm.
But a very nice overall product. Some of the sites that have reviewed it have said things like, finally they nail, Chrome OS is finally here. And not only because of the refinements here, but also I guess now it runs Linux apps alongside the Chrome apps and Android apps.
Right.
Yep.
So a nice, if this form factor is your thing and you can work with the apps you need inside Chrome, as well as having access to Android and Linux.
And you got a Touch ID fetish.
A Touch ID fetish.
It actually has a fingerprint scanner, which is one of the first ones in this form factor to do that on a Chromebook.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Is that on the rear of the device?
I think there's a picture if you follow the link.
Yeah, I have not. Has
It's
anyone
well
got their
done.
hands on this here? Because we didn't review this, and so I haven't seen it in person yet.
Hmm.
There's the camera. That's okay.
There's some big fingerprints.
Might have been on the edge.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No,
I think it's on the
actually
edge of it.
doesn't.
well, but that's.
Maybe it's fingerprint via dongle.
Oh, geez. Oh, what
No,
are they?
it's-
What are they?
it's
Apple?
probably, it's probably like you swipe your finger across the thing on the edge of it, probably.
Well, check out. There's Ars Technica's got this great, obviously great review with some nice pictures, and there's a ton of people out there doing reviews of this, and everything I've seen has been positive, and not overwhelmingly positive for some, but
More positive than
more positive than the
Okay.
previous line of high-end Google Pixel
right.
tablets have been.
Hey, at least it's not $1,000.
Oh, geez.
Well, the full kit one is.
Yeah.
But if you skip the keyboard and the stylus, $600, which
Oh,
for
okay.
Chromebook
Wait, so
is
$600
like
for just a plain
cheap
tablet?
chips.
Mm.
And those
Well, you compare
keyboards,
that. What the iPad Pro starts at $799 now.
those
Is that-
keyboards and styluses are getting awfully pricey.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Apple Pencil is not cheap, and
Neither
I mean,
is
there's
this
a
one,
million
apparently.
keyboards and keyboard cases and that sort of thing for iPads, but certainly the premium, like the Pixel premium Chromebook market is a little high still, in my opinion.
Yeah. And ever since, what did they call that first real crazy, was the Pixel Book? Like the real high-end Chrome tab or Chrome laptop that they came out with a few years ago?
Oh. Starting at 1,100 and going way up from there.
Yeah. That always seemed like they weren't offering enough to justify it. And still, it may not be a pure win in terms of value proposition even now, but having Linux apps, having access to Linux app, having access to Android apps, having Chrome OS continue to be refined, having the hardware, at least Google's had some hits and misses with their hardware, but so far so good with this. So, this is something worth looking at as an iPad competitor for sure. At least an iPad Pro competitor.
Mhm.
Does this have the always on SIM option as well?
It probably does at this point.
Probably.
Because if this can do SIM connectivity, run Linux apps, and support full disk encryption,
Hmm.
that's
No, I don't see Sim.
Okay.
okay. That makes it not
I'm so-
nearly as
Well,
cool.
you just need to tether it
No,
to
I'm
your,
pretty sure I would have noticed that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that wouldn't be part of it at this point, though. Like, isn't that just kind of like an assumed thing at this point? for
Well,
these?
they would want you to
Yeah.
tether to your Project Fi phone, right?
Oh, yeah.
But well, something to check out.
Yeah.
All right. Continuing on with the news, NVIDIA had some announcements, additional announcements, not just the product announcements with the Titan, but they had some AI and PhysX related stories. Sebastian had a briefing with him on some AI stuff. So why don't you tell us about this?
Yeah, it was interesting. We didn't get, really enough time, as complex as this topic is, to really get a handle on it. But the video is key. Like, if you have any interest in this at all, watch the video. The embed is in the article. But essentially what they did was went from live action footage they shot from a car. They took that back with them. They used AI. Basically, they trained it to say, like, this is a car, this is a building, and at a very high level, like, labeled things for them, like color coded it. And then basically using UE4, Unreal Engine 4, the deep learning system rendered the same scene in 3D. So the end result is not perfect by any means, but compared to what's been done before, it is a significant step forward. And the idea is, as it continues to improve, because we're only like a year and a half, 2 years into this research, as it continues to improve, then theoretically you could just go out and shoot live action for backgrounds or for any kind of real life thing that would appear in a game, they stressed that too. Like, this is not like to create like fantastic, like otherworldly types of things. This is for that real life kind of stuff that you'd want in a game,
like Dancing Gangnam Style.
Yeah. Now that is another thing entirely. If you're watching the video, the other side of this, beyond just like video to video, is the still image capability, which is possibly the most interesting part of this, and what will eventually, I'm sure, be the most controversial part of this, which is the ability to take a still image and then basically train the AI to animate the still image using like for example, like a model. Like you have a wireframe or like some sort of a stick figure model that's animated very roughly, but then it learns all the movements. It learns how the human body moves, where all the joints are, and then it can take the still image and animate it. And in the video, they show one of the engineers dancing Gangnam Style, and he said, "That's not me. I don't know how to do that. I would not do that." They just took an image of him standing there in his office, and then took a model video, which was a woman dancing, and then it learned how to animate him dancing. So it appears that he is actually doing it. So you could essentially take any still image and have someone do anything you want in video.
Insane.
Which is a little scary, but you know, that was also part of their research. So interesting things happening in the world of AI research. I feel like there's basically nothing that they won't eventually be able to do. So that's the sort of exciting / frightening part of all of this.
Yeah. We really need that soundboard with the Jeff Goldblum / Ian Malcolm. Never stopped to think if they should. Plus, there's a lot of other stuff I could think to put on a soundboard like that. But so that is terrifying.
That's a thing.
That is, I mean, but although a lot of new industries will pop up, you know, like verifying, you know, the authentic celebrity sex tapes and authentic political gaffes, and you know, we guarantee no AI manipulation in our product, kind of thing.
I don't think we can promise that even at this point.
Well, they would market it that way.
You remember the episode of Futurama where Fry orders like a virtual Lucy Liu for himself?
Oh, yes. God. Don't have sex with robots.
They just skin a bot. They have a robot. They just skin it for you, and it has like a pre-recorded like voice synthesis, and it sounds like her and looks like her. That's, I'm sure, like somewhere between a VR headset and AI training of a still image. It's coming.
Well,
I suddenly crave popcorn for some reason.
I always wondered what the video of Alex Trebek making love to Kathy Griffin would look like, but
some things man was not meant to know
that anymore.
Yeah. All right. So that's something to keep an eye on. But let's jump to the next NVIDIA announcement, which involves PhysX. Remember that? I mean,
I do remember that.
It's still
a thing,
but it's not what it once was.
Right.
And probably because of that, they're open sourcing it. Scott wrote this up for us. Not only are they open sourcing it, because a lot of tech companies, Microsoft and Google, you know, they open source things, and sometimes it's not really. It's open source technically, but under some owner's terms. Their NVIDIA in this case is putting it under the 3-line Berkeley software distribution scheme, or what do you call it? Tier, basically, which means, hey, you can do whatever you want. This can be commercial, it can be non-commercial. You can modify it, you can leave it unmodified and redistribute it. Redistribute it. Yes, thank you. You just have to basically waive any right you have to sue or hold NVIDIA accountable for the performance or issues that may arise from it, and then include credit as you pass that software along or that code along. So who knows, you know, what could come from this. I guess Unity is a little bit behind. They're only on PhysX 3. The current version's the SDK is 4. 4.0, and they're on 3.3. Epic is more up to date in their engine, but we're not sure yet. I don't think they've said what they're going to do specifically regarding this. But on top of that, Scott notes that this version is more stable and faster. So it's a better version of PhysX that they're giving into the open source community. So maybe this will, I don't know what, looking forward and looking at ray tracing and looking at the new technologies that NVIDIA is pushing and its competitors are pushing, I don't know where this falls, but maybe somebody will pick this up and run with it and create something cool. Because SLI is dead, so I need something to dedicate my second Titan to. And I've already set it in the control panel to be a PhysX card, but I don't think it's doing anything.
Okay.
Well, you have one Titan running as a PhysX card.
Well, why not? I mean, in so many games these days, if you enable SLI, it decreases performance or introduces some other issues like tearing and stuttering and whatever. So I have the two cards in there. Might as well check that box in the control panel.
Well, if it makes you feel better.
It really does. Thank you. It really does. Some more chip news. This one from PowerVR. They had two launches or two announcements this week. One is their GPU lineup. They've got 3 new products out. It's the 9X EP, which is going to be the lower end GPU for like UIs, like car entertainment systems. They say casual gaming, but I mean anything beyond like maybe, Bejeweled is probably not going to be ideal for this. And then they've got for like the more mainstream gaming, they got the 9X MP and then the 9X TP at the high end for, the flagship smartphones and perhaps like NVIDIA Shield like set-top boxes and things like that.
I hope it's compatible with Diablo.
I'm sure because everyone's going to want to play that. And so they've got, looking at the performance of the performance increase of their product line and their target markets. They're up against stiff competition. And so
I was going to say, I don't know off the top of my head what design wins they have out there in the market anymore.
Because
there was a time when Apple was using their technology, right? Early on.
It was like the iPhone 4, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they were in some phones as recently as 2017, but they weren't market leading phones. This is not. They're hoping that this will get them back, at least in some conversations, and they're available right now for licensing. So if you're building platforms in your garage, that's something to consider. And then paired with that, of course, is a new AI neural network. Deep learning, all the buzzwords. It's the Series 3 NX Neural Network Accelerator. And this is more interesting because it's a series of chips that scan or that range from as little as 0.6 trillion operations per second. So that's tops, I guess, to 10. So that's quite a large range of performance to choose from. And they provide they're targeting this whole sort of neural learning APIs, the distributed or multi-node.
I think that's the right word.
Multi-node cooperation for learning, and you can combine them. You can combine multiple chips into a single platform. And so again, not sure what products these are heading for, but they see that everyone's excited about neural networks and deep learning and all that, and they're jumping on that bandwagon. Anybody have any thoughts on PowerVR's latest efforts here?
I just wonder what it's going to end up actually being in. Since, everybody seems to be trying to do their own thing now.
They need to team up with Lucid Logic. It'd be perfect.
It wouldn't surprise me if somebody like Huawei would license this. I mean, they don't have the technology themselves. They license off other people. And, typically they've used the ARM Mali type stuff.
Yeah.
And Molly is great and all, but boy, PowerVR has a long history of pretty good products and a lot of expertise in the gosh, words escape me today. In the space, and they're incredibly worried about where they're at, and hopefully they pulled out all the stops and have created something really good with this. We'll see. They have multiple levels of products that they can sell to different individuals with different needs, and so I hope to not see this technology die, even though in my youth, my relatively misspent youth, when PowerVR was going up against 3DFX, and me as the fanboy at the time thought that PowerVR was the devil. And now I realize that it's all just technology.
Yeah, this is your fault, Josh.
It's not my fault.
All right.
Sebastian, what were you going to say?
I think I've said what I have to say. You heard me.
Well, never mind. Not really, but that's okay.
He was just saying that you were without blame for this, for the troubles of PowerVR.
Right.
And I don't want to say troubles because I don't know what their financial situation is. I just know that they haven't been in a lot of.
This has gotten very
products.
dark very fast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's talk about something potentially good, potentially bad. Microsoft, it was revealed this week, is considering a new Chromium-based browser product that would replace Edge. And obviously Edge has had a rough go of it. It's not Edge's fault. Edge isn't the one who prematurely released itself on Windows 10 without the ability to save a file with a right-click menu. And, Edge, a lot of people have talked about it, both good and bad. It has some positive things. It does generally have the best battery life on a Windows 10 device, mobile device, compared to Chrome and stuff. It has better font rendering, I think. It has smooth scrolling that's a little nicer than even what you can get in Chrome with some add-ons and stuff.
But is there something you'd like to confess to us, Jim?
What do you mean?
He's an Edge user.
Sounds like you like Edge.
No, so what I was going to was I want to like Edge. I keep every now and then I open Edge and I'm like, I'm going to use Edge today. And then it does a Bing search instead of a Google search. And then I throw the computer against the wall. So it's,
then it tries Internet Explorer.
Right. And hey now, Internet Explorer 6 was the greatest browser of all time.
And then his computer gets hacked.
Well, it's fine.
But the wonderful thing is, though, that they'll make sure that the only browser that by design is actually fully compatible with SharePoint Online will no longer be compatible with SharePoint Online.
That's right. Exactly.
It's going to be wonderful.
I don't envy those support calls you'll have in a few months.
Oh, nor do I.
But another problem with Edge, of course, was that they couldn't get the extensions going. You have to get them through the Windows Store. There's not a lot to choose from. They don't work as well as Google Chrome extensions or even Firefox extensions.
Well, I'm not joking when I said they've been trying to get those Chrome extensions to work on Edge for forever.
Yeah.
Not very well, but
So obviously switching to Chromium, you get the Chrome ecosystem basically overnight. Depending on how Microsoft wants to.
It depends on how they implement
how they implement it.
Yeah.
But I would
through
imagine,
the Windows Store.
Yeah, imagine if they're going to do that. But at least then a Chrome extension developer can just check a box and doesn't have to do anything. So that's something there. Obviously it helps people who have issues with Edge rendering certain sites. I don't know how bad that is today, but it was an issue a year or two ago. But it reduces the diversity, if this is true, it reduces the diversity in the browser market because then you've got WebKit and Gecko.
Vivaldi.
Gecko, yeah. You're turning it over to WebKit pretty much.
Yeah,
and I just don't know how they're going to sell. Will they just call it Edge? Will it just become Edge, or will they try to brand and sell a new browser to their users? And when I say sell, I mean like pitch, convince them to use. I don't know. It's just the Microsoft of Satya Nadella is like almost like a lunatic. I mean, he's doing so well in terms of the financial, like the stock price, but they're canceling products. They're changing things. They're delaying features or introducing features too soon. It's just kind of all over the place. And I can't say I'm too upset because most of the things that they've killed off were not that great. But interesting to follow this one. So I don't know. I mean, would you guys give whatever they're going to call this, whether it's Edge 2.0 or something else, would you give it another shot if it was based on Chromium?
Do you think Alexa's going to give us a chance to at least not try it once?
Oh, you mean Cortana?
Or well, whichever one of those annoying things that yell at me all the time.
She may be dead by this time too. Who knows?
One can only
They're
hope.
sort of disenfranchising Cortana a little bit. This is interesting because if you follow rumors about Windows Phone at all, the Surface Phone, there have been rumors kind of swirling for a while now that they would be switching to Android, kind of like Windows apps built on Android for their next phone platform if they do return to the smartphone space. It's kind of interesting that I'd say that a huge roadblock for a lot of people, more savvy users anyway, with Edge would be that they can't run their extensions. There are a lot of really useful extensions out there, and if they're not available on that platform, that's a huge problem. So we talk about like friction points in relation to browser usage and that sort of thing, that it completely eliminates it if you go to the open standard that everything is built to work on, because Chrome is so pervasive. Then Chrome has all the extensions, they have everything, so you'd immediately have that. Just like if on the phone platform, if they went to Android, suddenly the Play Store is available. You can download any app, and Microsoft apps come installed on the phone. So,
well, although that, to follow up, like the second part of that story, I mean, they may well go with Windows Core OS still, because that's apparently still a thing that they're developing as fast as they can.
That's right. Yeah, the Windows Lite.
Yes. So, and it'll be interesting because, I mean, Windows RT was just such a win. And 10S, although I've never had the pleasure of playing with it directly, I've heard is just about as wonderful. And just the whole implementation throughout the Nokia years, it was just abysmal. To the point where a Microsoft product wasn't compatible with Microsoft products without bringing in a third party to get them to work together. So, we'll see what WCOS is like. If, as they're describing it, it'll work on Qualcomm, it'll work on ARM, it doesn't care. It'll work on anything. Question being, of course, what level of work. It might be consistent across the board, but consistency is only a virtue if you're not a fuck up.
Well said. That's the quote of the year. All right, so keep an eye on Edge and keep an eye out for some developments with whatever they end up calling at least the consumer-facing version of Windows Core OS, Windows Lite or whatever. A couple more news stories just to quickly round out the week here. Silverstone's back. I think we talked about them last week. They've got some interesting power supplies. So last week they had an SFX power supply that reached a new level of power, although their Corsair's quickly on their heels. This week they've got a new series in their Strider Platinum line. It's the PTS series, which are 1,000 and 1,200 watt power supplies that are not SFX form factor, but they're 40 millimeters shorter than a standard ATX power supply. So I think the standard depth, I think, is 180 millimeters. These are 140. SFX is 125. So you're not going to be cramming this in a true small, compact case meant for an SFX supply. But if you've got a smaller case, or if you're building a custom case, or if you've got a normal case, but the way the cable management is, you just can't fit them all in the back, and you need a little extra room to route those cables. Not a bad option, and those are wattages that are absolutely adequate for even the highest builds. The only downside is price. You're going to pay more for that compact design. The 1,000 watt model is going to be $210, and the 1,200 watt model is going to be $240. And you look at other platinum rated supplies, because these are 80 plus platinum. That's about a 25% higher price than like a standard 180 millimeter depth supply from Corsair or EVGA. So it's good to have that choice. It is, be careful when you're pricing it out. If you don't need it, don't spend the money if you don't need that extra space, but good for some case flexibility.
Yeah, when I first started reviewing cases for the site like 4.5 years ago, one of the first cases I did was the N-Case M1, which was that crowdfunded, very small mini ITX case. And it had ATX power supply support, but it had to be either a modular 140 millimeter like this one. And I actually bought a Silverstone 140 millimeter, which back then was like 550 watts.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest one you could get. And it was either that or a 160 non-modular, but one of these 140 millimeter, which I ended up using a lot for different case reviews, coupled with, I know Silverstone sells their own very short cable set.
Yeah.
With like ribbon style cables. Those will go into almost any small enclosure that accepts an ATX power supply and clean up very nicely. So Silverstone always seems to be on the edge of density. So not surprising to me that they would be this power dense at 140 millimeters, but it's nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are shipping mid-January, so check those out. Finally, I'm sorry, not second to last, we've got a story here from Jeremy about a Thermaltake RGB power supply, which Kit Brewer took a look at.
Yep, and lost most of their vision because boy, is this thing bloody bright.
Does it actually run on RGB power alone?
No, that's actually might have caused some of the electrical problems that they were seeing in the full tests. You got to jump forward a bit to actually see the RGBs. It's not bad. It follows a similar design to the ones you were talking about. So it's a 140 mil fan, but the PSU is only 160 mils long. So it's a little more compact than a lot of the ones you'd see on the market. At least 750 and plus wattage range. Performance, I think it was. They might have some pictures in there. No. See that? No.
We really should have queued this up ahead of time. I'm sorry, folks.
Oh, why bother? It's a gold rated PSU, so it is 80 plus gold. But what they found was that when you turned it on, it was not the happiest thing in the planet. The inrush currents were relatively low, and once it got up and running, especially at 230 watt, there was a huge amount of vampire power being used by it, which had nothing to do, of course, with the giant RGBs glowing out of it. So if you're really looking for something that, and honestly, overall, the performance was not bad. It was a solid PSU. There were just some questions about the quality of the caps because it didn't turn on very nicely and it sucks power like you wouldn't believe just running an idle. But on the other hand, it's got a 10-year warranty, and if you're really, really into the RGBs and you need it either handled by hardware or you can get software, I go for it, I guess. Enjoy it. Make sure that you get some RGB power cables to go on it too.
Do they have RGB SATA cables yet, Alan?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did? Okay.
That's been a thing.
Okay. Well, I just scanned through the article. I couldn't find any pictures like with the lights out and the RGBs on. So.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for too. I didn't see it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. We'll take.
Sure, it's in there somewhere.
It wouldn't say it on the box if they didn't actually do it. So, all right. Well, so yeah. So this one, don't be allured by the glowing lights. Trust the measurements.
Yeah, it's a wee bit of a niche, but I mean, if you like the glowing lights, that's your thing.
Yep. And finally for the week, we've got an announcement from Jeremy about MechWarrior Mercenaries. Sorry, MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries.
Hello, Commander. Reactor online, sensors online, weapons online. All systems will not be nominable until September next year.
Oh, that's quite a.
It's a long frickin' way, but I gotta tell you, the trailer was this little thing was giving me goosebumps, and they actually gave at MechCon a Twitch presentation of 4-person cooperative multiplayer, which is just a little bit wild and wacky for a MechWarrior game. It really looks interesting to bring a group of friends together and play a lance and go freaking nuts with.
Wait a minute.
A king crab.
Cooperative multiplayer in like a campaign, like against AI.
I.
Well,
because it was not just this is a random scenario. Like at the beginning of it, it's saying your opposing faction is taking over the city. You guys get together, go out and do it.
Huh.
So I'm sure you'll be able to play alone. But the idea of actually you and 4 mates or 3 mates running around in big stompy bots, just destroying the countryside with lots and lots of crunchies to step on. That's another thing you didn't really see in the previous ones. You didn't get many vehicles. This has aircraft and ground.
and
It's going to be.
They're just walking through buildings and just wrecking them.
Oh yeah, because it's been a long time since the last one came out.
Yeah.
So the graphics have gotten a hell of a lot better. And I've tried MechWarrior Online, and I should go back to it. I had some issues with my joystick that made it not so much fun because there was no limit to the joystick. So unless I was extremely careful, I was essentially just pointing straight up in the air, straight down to the ground.
Oh.
There was no limitation to the area it moved in. And some other things just didn't really get me with the whole pay-to-win scenarios. But this just looks ridiculously fun.
I don't think I've played any MechWarrior game since the very first one.
Yeah.
Which I played on an underpowered, even at the time, like Packard Bell, where it was a slideshow.
It was what was the first one for me, which I kept replaying when I got like a Voodoo card or something, because then you can play it.
MechWarrior 2.
Yeah, MechWarrior 2.
And Mech 2 Mercenaries.
And then I played. The next one I played was like, I want to say it was like an Xbox or a PlayStation game. No, it was Xbox.
Like OG Xbox?
It was like the OG Xbox, one of the MechWarrior games on that. That was actually pretty fun. That it had like a really long series of campaign stuff that you would play through.
Mm-hmm.
It might, yeah. I mean, it was a mech. I don't know if it was like one of the official MechWarrior games. Even it might have just been like one of the.
It was FASA sponsored, if I remember it right.
What was it?
Earth Siege. It was by Sierra. It was kind of the MechWarrior.
Oh, it might have been that. Yeah, but that was like the last time I actually got into like a mech-based game. I want to get into a mech-based game. This one looks like I would get into it, but like, once they go crazy on the online stuff and everything else, I just want to be able to sit down and play through a challenging campaign, not be, have a bunch of script kiddies on there messing around, blowing random things up that weren't like part of the object of the game.
But that's what online gaming is.
I know.
That's why I don't do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into the picks of the week. And I think I'm up first. All right. Yes. So I've got a pick this week. It's a book. It's from Brad Sams. It just came out, I think, this week. Brad Sams he was a longtime writer at Neowin, and then he now works for, what is the parent company of Petri? It's Blue Wide Whale, BWW.
Something like that.
Well, it's Petri.com, which is like an IT site that also, I don't know if they own or partners with Thurrott.com. And so he does a lot of stuff with Paul and Mary Jo. And he wrote a book. So he's very Microsoft focused. And he wrote a book called Beneath a Surface. And it's a look at basically start to finish the Surface brand, the Surface product line, going all the way back to that original table, and all the way up through the most recent Surface products that they announced just a few months ago. It's really interesting, and I don't know how to say this because Brad's a local Cincinnati guy, so we're going to represent the local crew here, but. I mean, I still recommend it if you're interested in this, but he's not, his style of writing isn't suited to a book. Like I was thinking when I saw this, there are a lot of books that are technical that could be very dry, but they still have like a narrative, like there's just a flow to it that you expect from a book factor instead of like an article. Things like Masters of Doom or Console Wars or When Computing Got Personal. And these are books about technical topics that still are entertaining and flow well. And this book, it read like a giant 200-page article. And it was, very matter of fact. There's a lot of interesting tidbits. He interviewed like dozens and dozens of people inside and outside of Microsoft. I learned a bunch of stuff that I didn't know about the Surface and the decisions that kind of went into the branding. And it's a good look at how he, from his journalist perspective, worked with other journalists as they were uncovering stuff about the various Surface products. So it's definitely, if you're interested in this, it's worth a read. But it's not an easy read in the sense that it just doesn't flow. And so I don't know if I think this is his first book, so maybe that's just something he can work on if he wants to, make writing a bigger writing books at least a bigger part of his life. But definitely recommend it for those interested in that topic. It's $10 on the Kindle. I don't know if there's a physical version because there's a lot of illustrations in it, like pictures and references, but they're real tiny on the Kindle. So I don't know if they were translated from like maybe an EPUB that is in full color, or if there's a print book. But through Amazon, it's $10. So check that out. Beneath a Surface by Brad Sams.
No, it's actually really interesting because I will admit to being completely wrong. When this thing came out, I thought it was a complete and utter stupid move on Microsoft's part, and Gigabyte and a bunch of the other partners that were selling Microsoft licenses with their hardware saying, "Stay out of our lane, boys. This is not nice."
Yep. Well,
and I was wrong. It's a solid product ever since, and every single one that I've deployed to a user has been sent back for being unable to do what they wanted it to.
Well, the issue, I mean, the first couple versions were failures. Like, even in the most positive perspective, and it was people like Panos Panay who like drove the determination from inside the company to keep pushing forward. And it took them a while, and it's still not a perfect product by any means, but starting with Surface Pro 3, that third generation, it turned around. And I remember I had my cousin, who's 10 years younger than I was, when I was just starting Tech Review. I bought a Surface Pro. I think it was a Surface Pro 2 maybe.
Yeah,
and
probably.
She came to visit, and she was just starting medical school, and she saw it, and I wasn't like showing it off or anything. It was just sitting there, and she goes, "Oh, a Surface. That's awesome." And she is not at all technical, not at all, never interested in computers or anything electronic.
But she heard all the hype.
What's a computer?
Right. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
Hype train worked.
So there's something captured a certain segment of the market, and they haven't let go. It hasn't become a breakout success, but it appears to be making money. That brand now finally, after all those write-downs.
Well, we're deploying a few in the near future, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll keep these ones.
Yeah, we'll see.
But speaking of things that aren't Surfaces.
Yes, if you want some power.
I got a friend who's looking for he doesn't want to pay workstation class prices for a laptop, but he's looking for something that can at least be a little bit GPU accelerated when he's doing some programming and stuff. So I've been sniffing around, and I found this MSI one that is actually a really damn good deal. It's not brand new. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that what is it? I think on this one it's the GTX 16 or 1060, but it's on sale for $1,470 with $20 off with a promo code and another $150 rebate card.
That's pretty good. Jeez.
And you get a 1060, you get an 870 or an 8750H. You get the full terabyte for your storage and 128 gig M.2 SATA drive, which usually adds like $500 to your cost right off the bat. A decent 1080p IPS monitor. It's not ridiculously heavy. You got to give up on your Thunderbolt, but for this price, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that this is not worth picking up if you're looking for something that can do light gaming, light programming, and is a damn good bang for your buck.
And you still get USB-C, so at least you can.
And 16 gigs of memory too at that price.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, that's
limited time. So if you're thinking about it, check it out quick.
Awesome. So that's the MSI GV62, and the pricing and the rebates Jeremy mentioned are at Newegg, possibly elsewhere, but At least we know for sure they're a Newegg.
The Amazon deal wasn't as good, at least in Canada. U.S. prices may vary.
Yeah, and generally do. Okay, so I'm going to take a guess and see who's recommending the Logitech dual motor feedback driving force G29 racing wheel.
Well, probably the guy with the shirt that says "I still play with cars."
That's not me. I didn't pick the wheel.
Yeah.
I still play with cars.
But it was someone who just reviewed this.
No, I think it was
reviewed
Ken.
a similar product, right?
Yeah, Ken made that choice for me because I do everything Ken says.
Oh, okay.
I see.
So
We don't want to go into that.
anything more
But
you want to
anyway,
say on this?
$238 for a solid wheel. Dirt Rally 2 is coming out in February? Project Cars 2 is out now. I mean, it's Forza Horizon 4 is out as well. There's a lot of really good racing titles out there.
Yep.
The only downside
And more
being,
coming soon.
Both versions will work with PC, but if you have both consoles, you got to pick one or the other, right?
Yeah. The 920 is Xbox and PC, but the G29 is PC and PS4.
Well, no matter what anyone says, they've always got a favorite child.
The G29 might be favored if you only intend to use it on PC because it has more like
More
knobs
buttons
and
and
switches.
the
right,
rev lights.
Yeah.
Those are
And
handy.
it's like $7 cheaper than the
Sweet.
for whatever reason.
Yeah. What's funny is when I saw your review go up, Josh, it prompted me to look back at like how much did I spend on that racing wheel that I bought? Because I bought one, but partially due to Josh's influence, like a few years back. Turns out I got one when these two wheels came out, and we all scoffed at the prices. And I was like, "There's no way I'm spending that." Sorry. There happened to be like, within a month or two of that launch, they started blowing out G27s, or G9, was it G27?
Yeah, G27s.
Yeah.
You could find it for $175 to $200.
Yes, and that's what I did. I bought one for like $180, and that was with the pedals and the shifter.
Yeah.
Right, and it was less than half the cost of just the wheel and pedals of the new model. Granted, you don't get as many.
Is your steering wheel leather wrapped?
Yeah, it was still a leather wheel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it only had like 3 buttons on one side and 3 buttons on the other. It didn't have like this whole, big mishmash of stuff on the front, which granted is cool. But I make do with mine. I don't really have a need to update. Not yet, at least.
Yeah, and unlike the G27, this really doesn't have a dead spot in center.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of one, but not nearly what the G27 was.
Yeah, because they changed how the sensors worked on this one.
All right, so that's the Logitech G29 or 920, depending on your console preference, if you have one. But if you don't have a console preference, do the G29. That's about $240 at Amazon right now.
Yeah, it's not bad.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, so I don't have this yet. I ordered it through the whole Black Friday, crazy sale kind of phase that we just went through, because the price had finally come down low enough for me to pull the trigger on one. But there's plenty of video reviews out there. If you look for the ES121, which is one of those motorized, mini screwdriver, but it's motorized.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like a beefier version, like a slightly bulkier version of your typical iFixit toolkit screwdriver, where it uses the same kind of bits and everything, except they've managed to squeeze a motor and like a gear reduction all into the screwdriver. Like it's all in there, with like special clutches and stuff, and they've managed to make it all work pretty well. There was an ES120 that this one replaces. This one supposedly has less torque and faster speed, but in the tests I've seen people do where they were trying to measure the torque output, it's basically the same torque, but it spins like almost twice as fast or something like that. Which, whenever you see these portable motorized screwdrivers like these mini screwdrivers, usually you're just kind of sitting there waiting for them to turn, and they're usually pretty weak. This is supposedly neither of those. I've seen lots of, pretty much for what it is, glowing reviews of this thing. And it does have, they call it gyro motion control, but it's pretty cool. It's like there's an accelerometer in it that can measure twisting, not just, XYZ motion, right? And you actually, when you twist your hand as if you were loosening the screw, that's what prompts the screwdriver to start turning in the loosened direction, and it goes the other way in the tighten direction. And there's also a not speed-based mode, but a torque-based mode. So the more you twist your hand, the higher the torque output, which is more conducive to if you're actually trying to, tighten and loosen delicate screws.
Yeah.
And you're trying to be delicate. You can't if it's just saying, if you twist his hand, I'm just going to turn at this RPM no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? That's when you start
I've
stripping
seen
threads.
that feature on a lot of similar products, but I haven't seen the torque one. That seems,
There's a torque limit, and there's like 3 or 4 different stages of maximum torque that it will do. So if you're not worried about the torque being proportional, but you just want to go to a specific limit and just have it not tighten any more than that, you can just set it to one of those like presets and do that instead. So pretty handy if you're constantly taking things with very small screws apart and trying to put them back together, and to the point where your wrist actually starts hurting, which I have a stack of SSDs on my desk that I'm working on a roundup review of, that I had to take them all apart, and it was kind of it started wearing on me.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of screws in these things, and when you have a stack of them, you're trying to take apart like in rapid succession. Or if you're working on some model or a laptop that just has 24 screws around the bottom just to get the bottom shell off, and then all these other things. It just, much handier to have something like this around. And it uses the standard, I think they're 1/8 inch or 4mm style bits, like your standard iFixit toolkit style bits. Will work with this. So,
nice.
Now, this is a very impressive GPU. It has 18 screws on it. 18 screws to remove.
All right, 3D game man.
This hard drive has 6 screw holes.
All right. Last up, we've got some more classic gaming goodness from Sebastian.
Yes, but with a twist, because this is not some, archaic component like actually two-hand. I have this.
I thought Al's had the twist.
Orchid Pro Designer 2 video card, which actually, this is on the very short list of cards that are compatible with the IBM 5150, by the way. It's a VGA card. But no, my pick is actually...
Sing Labs?
It does, for 2D.
Yeah.
Maybe that's for 3D. I don't know if it's a combination or what. I don't really know.
Sing Labs, they had a design that they were working on, but they went out of business before they could finish their actual 3D chip. So they're 2D 128-bit, Sing Labs ET 6000, I think, was a great 2D card. Moving along.
So my pick is actually just a piece of software, and it's free. It is Munt, and that is Mike Uniform November Tango. And if you search for it, it's on, I think, GitHub, and it's very, very easy to configure and use with DOSBox. And the reason you don't need anything but this software is, you also need to find the ROMs out there, which of course they don't provide, but they're out there, easy to find. You can use these with a lot of GOG games. You don't have to actually buy the big box game or find the floppies on eBay or something. GOG DOS games are often just the files from a DOS install, and then they have the settings and everything pre-configured with a little instance of DOSBox. But what they often do, I've noticed, is they have a little shortcut inside of the game folder. If you navigate to your GOG games folder, find the game, open up the folder, there may very well be a shortcut already there to open up the game's original install or sound setup application. And I just did this testing out the Munt emulator with Star Trek 25th Anniversary. And there was a link in there, so it opened me up to the old sound setup, and it lets you choose, you have an AdLib card, you have a Game Blaster or Sound Blaster card, and one of the options is a Roland. And the older games that are referencing Roland are not referencing Sound Canvas, like general MIDI stuff. They're referencing the MT32. Sometimes it's called out by name. Sometimes it just says Roland sound or Roland music. But for the games that had Roland soundtracks, the game's soundtrack was actually written for or written on the MT32. And there are YouTube videos out there to kind of compare the differences, and they're huge differences. The most popular one it seems to compare with is The Secret of Monkey Island, which just sounds like a completely different soundtrack on a Roland versus like an ad-lib card or
Secret of Monkey Island
Game
was
Blaster.
Secret of Monkey Island was like the benchmark game to show off, like whatever.
It seems like that's what everybody does. Yeah. For EGA versus VGA and for sound.
Yep.
But there are other games, like I mentioned, Star Trek 25th Anniversary. There's a quite extensive list if you go on Wikipedia and look at the MT32 compatible games list. It's a lot of LucasArts stuff, like the Indiana Jones games, and Star Wars, like X-Wing, TIE Fighter. And I did it in my GOG install of the old DOS version of X-Wing, and it's phenomenal. Like and I've compared the MT32 to the Mont emulator, and the difference is it's so minuscule that unless you're doing side-by-side, like A/B comparisons, you're not really going to hear the difference. So instead of finding yourself a used MT32 and then getting like a USB to MIDI adapter and setting it up that way to use DOSBox, this is an absolutely free way of getting virtually the same exact thing. And you can just go through your GOG library and find the games that are compatible with Roland sound. And these are like early 90s games generally. And just have another option, and it sounds absolutely phenomenal.
A neat thing too with the Munt interface, if we can see the screen here, Alex, it emulates the display on the front of the MT32, which normally shows you the channels and the activity. So like these blocks mean that something's playing on that channel right now. But some games had messages coded in, like Monkey Island and some of the Sierra games like Space Quest, and so you'll be able to see those that were these little special messages, like when you died or when something would happen in the game. And so you get the full experience of having the actual hardware, which is just awesome. All right. Well, that's the show. Thanks everyone for joining us. As we said at the beginning, we record Wednesday nights at 10 Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific here at pcper.com/live. To send us, to see all of our podcasts, go to pcper.com/podcast and get in touch with us. Twitter's probably the easiest, twitter.com/pcper. Anybody else have any closing thoughts this week? Nope. Well,
nothing. I got a big
let
old.
me do one quick check, make sure nobody said anything.
I got a big old Samsung Enterprise SSD roundup coming.
Oh yeah, he's been working hard. He's been over in his little corner working hard. So
did you hear that? Samsung Enterprise SSDs.
Yeah, this interests me greatly.
I don't think we've ever published a review on Samsung Enterprise SSDs because they used to have been unobtainium, and now they're in the channel, so to speak, or coming to the channel.
Well, we got.
I like deploying Evos, but I'd like some actual real hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so stay tuned for that, and stay tuned next week. Once Ken's back, we'll have all of his personal accounts from the Qualcomm Snapdragon Summit. But until then, thanks for joining us, and have a great week.
Holy man.